On live television, even an experienced journalist can become the story for a few unscripted seconds. A pen in the hand, an impossible word, a green screen at the wrong moment, or a serious segment that just falls apart. These have all turned ordinary reports into scenes nobody would believe if they weren't recorded. Between scares, blunders, awkward responses, and moments of real pressure, that's exactly what we're about to see now. When the person who's supposed to control the broadcast ends up stealing the show, and that's precisely what you're going to see here today. So go ahead, leave your like, hit that subscribe button down below, and let's go. Natasha Exelby wasn't some clueless newcomer fresh to the studio. The Australian journalist already had a solid career, covering major international stories, but she became globally famous for just a few seconds of distraction with a pen. It happened in April of 2017, during a live broadcast of ABC News in Australia. A segment of the newscast was wrapping up, and Natasha seemed completely checked out, staring at the pen in her hand, totally unaware that the camera had switched back to her. The moment she realized what had happened, she got a massive fright. Her eyes went wide, her mouth dropped open, and she immediately tried to snap back into anchor mode. And she did recover quickly, adjusting her posture and smoothly tossing it to the sports segment, keeping the newscast going. But the internet showed no mercy. The clip went viral. Her shock and that facial expression when she caught her mistake turned into a meme all over the internet. And on top of that, news stories started coming out claiming she had been fired, but ABC promptly denied it, explaining that Natasha was a freelance contributor. Even so, she later shared that she was removed from live on-air duties and was only given behind-the-scenes work from then on. Natasha handled the whole situation with humor and thanked the public for their support, joking that she and her hypnotizing pen were grateful. After that, she moved on from the anchor desk, building a career in corporate communications and crisis management. Reg Chapman is an experienced journalist, one of those who's been through a lot on television. But during a live broadcast for WCO-TV, a CBS News affiliate in Minneapolis, the problem wasn't breaking news, it was a single word. He just had to present the weather forecast and say meteorological. However, when the moment came, the word simply wouldn't come out. Reg would start, stumble, laugh nervously, and try again. And with each attempt, holding it all together became even more difficult.
3, 2, 1. It feels like it already, but meteorological summer kicks.
On the other end, meteorologist Adam Del Rosso was ready to go on. He also burst out laughing and even tried to help by breaking the word into syllables, like a quick pronunciation lesson.
Meteor.
But Reg had already gone way past the point of returning with a straight face to the news desk. The battle over the word dragged on for nearly 2 minutes, which live feels way longer. At one point, he managed to speak, celebrated instantly, but just trying to follow the script brought the laughter back. The weather forecast aired next. But what viewers remembered was this small chaos caused by a word that seemed so simple on paper. On April Fool's Day, a weatherman went live thinking he'd just do another forecast. Rain, traffic, temperature, that typical news routine that usually goes off without a hitch. But the crew had already set up a surprise. A colleague dressed in green from head to toe, standing right behind him in the middle of the weather map. The thing is, the studio used a green screen, that technique that swaps green for images on the display. So her body almost vanished into the graphic, leaving only bits of her face and hands showing. The meteorologist notices right away. He tries to keep talking about the rain, serious, professional, but the laughter was already about to break through.
See, now people can't see you. Wait, do they like, who is this?
And he doesn't stop the forecast. Instead, he plays along and shows live that there really was someone there putting a hand in front of his face. But the invisible man decides to cooperate in the worst way. He keeps moving, gesturing, appearing, and vanishing on the map. The forecast becomes less of a forecast and more of an open behind-the-scenes moment. When the segment ends, the meteorologist heads straight to the desk, demanding to know where that outfit came from and who planned it all. The response comes as expected. Everyone laughs. That day's forecast turned out pretty wonky, and it wasn't the weather that ran the show. It was the green screen. Presenter Carissa Codell was already used to being on camera. The problem was that suddenly a lot of people started treating her body as if it were something to be openly judged. At 26 years old, she hosts the morning newscast for Fox 49 in Springfield, Missouri in the United States, and the comments about her weight became increasingly cruel. But Carissa didn't pretend not to see them. She took the offenses, put them on screen, and read everything with the seriousness of someone delivering important news, live in front of her audience, generating widespread repercussion.
I ain't never worked as hard as them ankles. She's like the only fat 9 I've ever seen.
And that's when the scene works. The comment is crude, but she stays professional. She reads a few lines, laughs at others, fires back when she wants to, and whoever wrote it ends up looking smaller than the insult itself. Carissa shared that some messages surprise her with how angry the writers are, but that it didn't keep her up at night. And there was still one detail. While strangers talked about her weight, she revealed she'd lost about 25 kilos over the last 3 years. She also explained she doesn't show truly threatening messages to avoid giving those people a platform. She prefers to expose the appearance-based insults that hit her social media. The series went viral, her follower count skyrocketed, and Carissa turned mean comments into steady composure and well-done work. Jeanette Reyes was already used to that news anchor voice, firm, excited, and serious, even when talking about the weather. But then one day, she decided to bring that tone inside her home. The living room became a studio, the kitchen turned into a news report, and her husband, Robert Burton, became the interviewee of the moment. The thing is, Robert also worked in television, so he knew exactly when it was just normal conversation, and when Jeanette had switched into news mode. She recorded the joke and posted it on social media in January of 2021, and the video spread like wildfire.
Here at 9:32, and it looks like Mr. Burton is calling it
Oh
a
my God,
night,
so
but he is
annoying.
not
Participating.
Seriously, Robert?
Jeanette keeps her reporter persona on the whole time, approaching Robert on the couch like he's a special guest, narrating the night from the window, changing topics with total seriousness, and showing up in the kitchen asking what he's making for dinner. Robert, meanwhile, doesn't buy into the act for a second. He laughs, shakes his head, responds with impatience, and goes about his life like someone who just wanted to rest after work. The charm took off because it felt so real. A lot of people bring their work demeanor home without realizing it. Jeanette turned this into her signature online, became known as the MS News Lady, and eventually started creating content full-time, always playing with this clash between everyday life and the news voice she does so well. Olivia Jokic was already 2 days past her due date to have the baby. Even so, she unexpectedly showed up for work early in the morning at the CBS 6 Morning News in Albany, New York. At 4:15 in the morning, her water broke in the newsroom bathroom. But here's the thing. 15 minutes later, Olivia was not on her way to the hospital. She was already sitting at the anchor desk going live. Her colleague Julia Dunn, who was also pregnant, went ahead and opened the show, reporting it as extreme breaking news. And the scene just kept getting more and more incredible. Olivia smiled, read the news, and handled contractions during commercial breaks. At times, they came extremely close together, and the crew seemed way more worried than she was.
We do have some breaking news this morning. Literally.
Yes.
Olivia's water has broke.
Backstage, someone actually held up a sign telling Olivia to go to the hospital, but she wanted to finish the newscast. She later revealed that she felt better working and joking around with her colleagues than waiting alone anxiously in a hospital room. Olivia completed 3.5 hours of broadcasting, left the studio, and finally headed to the hospital. The next day, Quincy, her first child, was born. The network itself confirmed the news on air and congratulated the anchor after a morning that felt like a movie or a prank, but actually happened for real. Amy Campbell was covering football right on the sidelines. That point where a reporter feels the game up close, sometimes a little too close. It was July of 2013. She was working for Fox Sports Next at the opening, an event for young prospects at Nike's headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. Next to her, analyst Chad Simmons was commenting on a player's performance, but behind them the play wasn't over yet. In just a few seconds, the interview stops being the center of attention. An athlete comes sprinting along the sideline, the play spirals out of control, and Amy accidentally ends up right in the middle of the action. The camera cuts to the field, the microphone slips from her hand, and the coverage becomes part of the play. The weirdest detail is that in the background, the referee still raises his arm, signaling that the play counts. While the crew was on the ground, the game kept going. Despite the scare, Amy wasn't seriously hurt, she just had a mild ache in her knee. The player was Herman Lane, one of the most talked about high school prospects of that time, and he apologized shortly after. Amy even posted a photo smiling next to him, making it clear that everything ended without any hard feelings. It was just a football sideline report way closer to the action than she had ever planned. Mike Graham came into the interview ready to catch Cameron Ford off guard. Cameron was a carpenter and a spokesperson for Insulate Britain, a British climate group known for its highway protests. On talk radio, the conversation lasted less than a minute, but Mike immediately tried to prove a contradiction. How could someone defend the environment while working with wood, basically cutting down trees? Cameron tried to keep his explanation simple, pointing out that wood can be a sustainable material because trees can be replanted. But Mike kept raising his voice, insisting that Cameron's job depended on felled trees until he tried to spring his trap. Then Cameron dropped a blunt truth bomb.
Because it's regenerative, you can grow trees.
Well, you can grow all sorts of things, can't you?
Well, you can't grow concrete.
You can.
The silence that followed said almost everything. Cameron stood there for a few seconds, not really sure what to do with that response. Mike cut the conversation short, said later, and took the guest off the air, but the words were already out there. Then, alone on camera, Mike still tried to mock Cameron's logic, but the clip of his statement about concrete went viral as a meme. Later, he tried to explain that he meant cultivate in the sense of expanding, talking about concrete inside a cement mixer, the machine that mixes concrete. The radio station also tried to help, citing experimental research on concrete with bacteria. Even so, the video kept circulating because of the mistake that happened live. Chad Everett Myers was not doing a routine weather forecast. In the early hours of August 29, 2005, he was covering the arrival of Hurricane Katrina live for CNN. It was a heavy shift straight from the studios in Atlanta in the United States, with information changing fast, crews out on the streets, and many people trying to understand the scale of the risk while explaining the hurricane's data. Chad used a more technical term about the strongest part of the storm near its center. Carol Costello, the news anchor, interrupted him, asking for a simpler explanation for the audience. The idea might have been good, but the timing was not.
Filled in with some air,
okay,
not
so
as low of pressure, but
Chad,
Camille.
Chad,
let me talk, Carol.
Translate that for us. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Well, if you would let me talk.
He tries to go back to the forecast as if nothing happened, but the broadcast had already shifted. The awkward tension was there, right in front of everyone. Then the context came out. He had been working long shifts, and according to reports, had also dealt with urgent decisions involving teams in dangerous areas. The moment ended up circulating quite a bit online, and it's still remembered to this day. Even so, Chad wasn't suspended and continued at CNN as a severe weather expert. Carol also kept working in media and only left the network years later. Carolina Prado was already a well-known name in Mexican sports journalism, but on the internet, part of her fame came from a detail that didn't always have to do with her profession. The Venezuelan host would appear on shows wearing short, tight-fitting dresses, and that began to captivate so much attention that in several clips, the audience almost forgot the sports topics and started commenting on her outfit. One of the most shared videos was recorded in 2019. Carolina was talking about baseball, the NBA, and even Rafael Nadal's victory at Roland Garros. But as she presented, sitting at the desk and moving around the studio, the one who ended up becoming the center of conversation was her white dress. The backlash came from that specific moment. She was just doing her job, hosting a sports show, but the outfit ended up being way too flashy for a portion of the audience. Some folks praised her style and beauty, while others said it drew more attention than the actual content. But Carolina was never just the presenter in the dress. She worked for years on Mexican television, went through well-known sports programs, and built a solid career in that environment. Now, further away from TV, she often jokes on social media that she's become a fugitive from the media, while living closer to her family and far from the crazy camera routine. Don Lemon was once one of the most recognizable faces on CNN. He spent 17 years at the network, but his departure in April of 2023 was anything but a graceful exit. Weeks before, on CNN This Morning, he commented that Nikki Haley, a candidate for the US presidency, was no longer in her prime because of her age. His co-anchors questioned that statement, but he doubled down, saying that statistically speaking, a woman peaks in her 20s, 30s, and maybe her 40s. The backlash was immediate and fierce. On the very morning he was let go, Lemon still appeared on air, smiling in the studio and joking that he didn't even really know how to take a vacation.
I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime.
Shortly after the show, he decided to post that he had been fired by CNN. He made it clear that he was shocked, and that he received the news through his agent, not directly from the network's management. CNN responded promptly, almost immediately after. The network claimed that his version of events was inaccurate, and that Lemon had the chance to talk with his supervisors before releasing the statement. His departure also came amid reports of growing tension on the morning program, particularly with Caitlin Collins. And Nikki Haley took advantage of the public backlash to mock his firing on social media, using the age controversy against him. After leaving CNN, Lemon managed to launch an independent show in partnership with the X platform, but the collaboration with Elon Musk was canceled after their very first interview. In 2024, Lemon took legal action against Musk and the platform over the broken agreement, showing that his professional career has been extremely complicated and turbulent in recent years. Michelle Kerr was already famous for taking on tough challenges on the internet, but becoming a local news anchor in San Diego in the United States was a whole other kind of pressure. At Phoebe's site, she trained with real professionals and tried to learn in just a few days a routine that many people take years to master. Reading the teleprompter, controlling the timing, talking to the camera, and still keeping a calm face. But live news doesn't wait for anyone to catch their breath. Michelle started excited, changed outfits, sat at the desk, and got into the rhythm of the anchors. Then came the green screen, the weather maps, the text scrolling by, and the directions in her earpiece. She pointed in the wrong direction, lost track of the commercial break, and tried to keep going strong even though she wasn't steady at all.
You're on. 30,000 people watching. Here we go. I'll take it from here, Michelle.
The experience even went beyond the studio because the day before, she had also trained as a street reporter. Michelle ended up covering a real forest fire in the Otay Mountains near the border with Mexico. Out there, the stakes shifted dramatically. The local information could help residents figure out safer routes. Despite the stumbles, the recording ended without causing any real problems for the station's viewers. For Michelle, the clearest takeaway from the challenge was this: presenting the news seems simple until the camera turns on and everything has to come out as perfectly as possible with no mistakes. Renata was hosting a broadcast about the Palmeiras soccer team with a very simple task: read a fan's prediction and keep the show going. But live internet messages can be tricky. The prediction said the team would win by 13-0 with goals from various players. Up to that point, it was just an excited fan exaggerating. The problem came when Renata read the participating fan's name, which together formed a double-meaning phrase that she realized far too late.
Paula Vadão, Renata, hoje vai ser 13-0 Verdão. 4 do Navarro, 2 do Dudu, 2 do Veiga, 2 do Everton e 3 do Gomes.
Her reaction shows the exact moment it all clicks. First, she tries to keep a straight face, stay serious, pretend she can still get through it without laughing, but she can't. She gets embarrassed, cracks up, and completely loses control of the scene. The guy next to her gets it right away, covers his face, and looks like someone who just watched a trap being set live. No explanation was needed. The pause, the laughter, and the no way already said everything. It was just a score prediction for Palmeiras, but the Brazilian internet decided to remind everyone that when a message is too perfectly wrapped, someone probably left a banana peel along the way. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.